When a content creator runs out of ideas, he gets his audience to come up with content for him. Welcome to the first installment of reacting to your anime hot takes. Make sure to subscribe. So the concept is simple enough. I asked for your hottest takes and you delivered in the hundreds. I then went through them and picked the most interesting ones. Let's get started. AI will be a benefit to anime in all sorts of ways, expediting the coloring process, the in-betweening, cleanup, and either getting rid of CG or making CG look more like 2D. Now, before I talk about this, I need to let you guys know what my opinion on the use of AI in art is. As someone who isn't a professional animator and is barely an artist, I think AI has no place in art, or the entire creative sphere for that matter, not as a replacement for creative people and not as a tool for them. With that being said, I think your opinion is quite narrow-minded. The way you singled out the coloring, in-betweening and CG department tells me that you think 2D animation is the be-all end-all of creativity. Everything else is grunt work, which is obviously not the case. If the idea of speeding up 2D animation using AI is offensive, then the idea of using it in other departments is offensive as well. Coloring artists are, as the name would suggest, artists. Same with CG and in-between animators. Belittling their artistic contribution and likening the same to something that can be streamlined through AI is quite counterproductive to your original statement of wanting to help anime. Also, the advent of AI will lead to this already underpaying industry laying off thousands of artists. Nothing good comes from AI art in my opinion. My verdict, I disagree. Piracy isn't that bad considering how animators and people who make these shows get paid. They are already paid for their works, so whether or not you watch legally won't affect them that much. 90% of people in the third world wouldn't be anime fans without piracy either. Now that's interesting. I do think you are wrong on the first part. I know animators and other artists receive a minuscule amount of money and that the success of the show doesn't affect their pay, but piracy leads to the entire industry losing money, which will eventually lead to less shows being produced and lesser funding for them, which will leave a mark on staff members and their bank accounts somewhere down the line. However, geo-restriction is a real thing. I live in India and I literally do not have an official way of watching Attack on Titan, one of the most popular shows of all time. Anime is not that accessible legally, and for that reason, I can't bring myself to look down on people who indulge in a bit of Luffyism. Verdict, I agree to a degree. Don't pirate stuff if you have the option not to. JJK is just fights. Here's a little secret between you and me. Jujutsukaisen is an action anime. I know, mind-blowing. In all seriousness, no. Just no. Jujutsukaisen is one of the only shows from its genre and demographic that isn't afraid to explore the consequences of the action. That's what the final episode of season 2 was all about. Be it the effect the action has on the characters and the world itself, or the way the fights tie into the overarching narrative. JJK is about as good as it gets when it comes to incorporating massive amounts of action into a story. Does it have unnecessary fights that don't add much? Yes, it's a battle shonen, but it's far from being quote just action. Verdict, disagree. Animation doesn't matter as much as sakuga tards hype it up to be. Yes, that is true. However, if you substitute the word animation with production, aka the overall production value that includes visuals, music, direction, voice acting and more, the answer changes. Anime is a visual and auditory medium. Therefore, the visuals and audio do matter a lot. It is possible to package a mediocre story in a blanket of strong production, and the opposite is a lot harder. Of course, the lack of top-tier animation doesn't make a show bad, but a complete inability on the production team's part to convey the story using the medium is a massive problem. Verdict, partially agree. Ufotable is overrated as hell. Their biggest selling point is their digital work, but they don't mix it well with 2D, and they overuse the digital effects. I received plenty of Ufotable related takes, but I decided to go with this one. Now, the idea of glorifying a studio is stupid, and by that logic, Ufotable is overrated, but if any studio deserves the recognition, it's them, alongside the likes of KyoAni, since the studio itself has a distinct look thanks to the recurring staff members. I know it boils down to personal preference, but come on, are we really going to sit here and pretend that they don't integrate digital components well? They are, by far, the gold standard when it comes to this aspect. Also, while they do have an excellent digital division, that's not their selling point. Their selling point is a cohesive, consistent and good-looking final product, the creation of which is made possible by a strong in-house culture and organization. Verdict: disagree. There will never be another anime as genre-defining and mass-appealing as AOT. It achieved a demographic which spread not just across the anime community, but also just about anyone. That's interesting. I think AOT changed the way an average person looked at the medium of anime. People knew it existed, sure, but non-anime viewers thought of shows like Naruto and Dragon Ball as that niche thing where the characters scream and fight a lot. I think AOT was the show that convinced them otherwise. Again, I am referring to people who don't watch anime. Even they look at AOT as a TV show that happens to be animated. They don't associate it with the narrow-minded idea of an anime. Pair that with the copious amounts of fan, including myself, that AOT ushered into the medium, and you have the single most influential modern anime out there. Will there be another anime with the same level of impact? I say no, because AOT has already changed people's perception of anime. Nothing else can accomplish that effect, as the perception has already been changed. Verdict: I agree. Yutapon is overrated. His cuts became too repetitive, and there are dozens of animators more capable than him. Most of his cuts are hard to read and too chaotic. There are two main problems with your take. One, no, there aren't dozens of animators more capable than him. Purely from a technical standpoint, Nakamura is better than any active animator out there. I think most of said animators would agree. As for his work being too chaotic, I feel like people don't consider the nature of the shows in question. The bulk of modern Nakamura's work belongs to MHA and Mob, and both these titles are bombastic in nature. That, coupled with the fact that he is the highlight animator, means that his work ends up being extremely over the top, because that's what the scene calls for. Similar complaints are hurled at the Heavensfield trilogy. Yes, the character named Berserker doesn't rely on his close quarters martial arts ability. What a surprise. Nakamura effectively redefined what over-the-top action animation means. The fact that every human being alive, anime fan or not, isn't aware of Nakamura means he's underrated. Verdict: disagree. And finally we have mainstream anime was a mistake. Short and sweet. I don't think so. I know there are people who like to gatekeep stuff, and I do understand their point of view, but I can't bring myself to agree with them. Sure, the mainstream nature of modern anime leads to a lot of unsavory characters associating with the medium, and yes, it might lead to anime losing its characteristic charm as it tries to appeal to a global audience, but at the same time, think of the masses who genuinely enjoy it for what it is. We don't own anime. If anything, we are the intruders, since neither of us are Japanese. If we can watch anime, so can the rest of the world. Verdict: disagree. That's about it. Liked the video? Check out this other bit of content on screen. Like and subscribe, and until next time.